So I got the old board out of the game. Here's your old original two-piece board with your internet connector. Here's the RottenDog board, as you can see. Much nicer package on this new one. So for now, we're just going to set this aside and get our new RottenDog one up here, and our instructions. Alright, the instructions start off with power off, which you should have. Remove your whole boards. Now, the next step is to remove the two screws holding the center support bracket. This is the bracket right here. What this bracket does is when your boards are separated, you slide your MPU board in here, and then it screws in up here, and then so when you plug your driver board in, the MPU board's not going to flex, and you're not going to break solder joints and stuff like that. So obviously with the one-part board, we don't need this anymore. So we're going to take this out, but you want to keep this in a safe place because when you go to put your original MPU boards in, you're going to need that. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to take it out. Eventually I'm going to make a little label for this and label this as a Williams 3 through 7 MPU board clip. And then put this in a safe place. Ideally, put it in the game, put it in the coin box or something. That way it's always right there with the game, so when you put it back in. I'm also going to take the two screws I took out and I'm going to put them back in the game because otherwise they're going to get lost. And they're set way back from the standoffs, so there's no fear of the solder side of the CPU board hitting it. But you know, obviously, if you lose these, you'll never find them when you go to look for them. Trust me. So the next step's to mount the board. This is going to go down here. You see these 3 holes on this side and these 3 holes on this side. I line up with this lower bracket, which was the driver board bracket. The other thing it tells you to do is to remove these clips because all these wires need to come down to attach up here. So I'm going to take these out, but I'm going to, after I take them out, I'm going to put them back in, obviously. So I don't lose them, and when I put the, if I want to put original boards back in here, everything's already in the game and it's not rolling around my garage or, you know, accidentally gets thrown out or whatever. So we're going to do that now, and when we get back, we'll be in the game. Alright, we got the CPU board mounted. I'll make a note here. I initially said we were going to attach it with the 6 screws, and then I went back and read the manual, and it said to attach it with the driver board, used to be, which is here, with the 4 corner screws. I thought that was kind of odd since there's 6 holes in the board, and now I realize why. This middle one here, it doesn't line up with the bracket from the driver board. And odder than that is this middle one over here, it does line up. So I put the 5 in. I think I read somewhere that on later revisions of this board he was going to correct this problem. So he's probably waiting until he gets the System 7 part of the board down. But it's no big deal. He says just to use the corners, I use the 5. It's no big deal. As long as the 4 corner ones are in and they're tight, I'm sure if you bought a game, you've seen these screws rolling around the bottom of the cabinet. That's because they came out. And these screws are important because this is how the board grounds. There's a little solder tab on the back, and that's how this board gets its ground. So make sure those screws are tight, but not too tight. You don't want to crush the board, obviously. The next step of the instructions is to only attach the 1J2 connector. What he wants you to do when you put this board in is to just hook up the power. So 1J2 is this upper left connector here, and this is the wire coming from your power supply. So he wants you to boot this thing up just with the power supply to rule out any other problem with your game, to make sure the MPU board's working. And I'm sure the reason he does this is because if you connected all these connectors and say you didn't check your coil resistances and stuff, and you blow up this board, well, he doesn't want you to say that he sent you a defect. You know, he wants you to see that this board's working before you hook it all up. So 1J2 we got connected. He also said to remove the battery in the directions. On the board I got, the battery was already out and it was in a separate Ziploc bag, which makes sense to not ship it with the battery. So batteries are already out. And the other thing was to set the dip switches at dip switch bank 3 to all 1s. Push them all downward, it says. So that's the switch bank here. That is the ROM dip switch. So we have all of them switched off.